Could the contents in this little book make you rich? It has done that for me. Hey, it's Gary Coxe, and I'm going to share with you some really powerful tools from the book I wrote, You Can't Fillet a Nibble, It's the Catch That Counts. Now, what does that title really mean? You know how many times I've had people in sales, or you've heard this before, maybe, especially if you're in sales, oh man, I got this person, they're so interested, they're going to do it. That's called a nibble. You can't fillet a nibble. It's the catch that counts. When the catch counts, it's when it's in the boat, then you can fillet the fish. But nibbles don't get you anywhere. It's a start, but you can have nibbles all day long and walk home with no food for you and the babies and the mama, wife, and all that good stuff. All right, so let's talk about this. On page 40, I'm going to share with you perhaps the number one reason why I feel people fail. It's not just in sales, but when they have ideas, where they go wrong. And check this out. And I'm going to write this number down because it's ridiculously huge. And this is the key. This is one of the reasons why people fail to succeed. And I read 48%. All right, that's a huge number. 48% of salespeople never do what? They never, here's the key word, they never what? Follow, you know the rest. Follow what? Follow up. And you know the sad thing, most people watching this and listening to me, they think they really follow up. But I'll assure you that most people don't. Why? Because 48% of them don't. Here, the numbers keep going a little crazy. 25%, that's right. 25% of salespeople only make a second contact, a second attempt. That's ridiculous. Next number, only 10%. Oh my goodness. 10% of salespeople make more than 3. Only 10% make more than 3. 80%, here's the bigger number, 80%. You want to increase your sales by 80%. 80% sales are made on the 5th to the 12th attempt or contact. Why then, if we know, and we're going to talk about this psychologically, why then, if we know that 80% of sales are made between the 5th and 12th contact, why are most people not constantly following up at least between the 5th and 12th attempt? There are a number of reasons, and most of them are psychological. We'll talk about some of those as well. Let's talk about the first one. I believe, and I know this is going to sound like I'm totally going off, of course, people marry based on their self-esteem. What does that mean? That means if you expect people to talk down at you because you feel that you're worthless or not worthy, you're going to be okay attracting people that treat you that way because you don't feel that you can step up to the next level and you're afraid to say something to that person because you might lose them for fear you'll never find anybody else. It's kind of the same psychological game in this. See, what happens is when we make one attempt, then we try another attempt. It's the time we make the second attempt, and that's what I go through in very great detail in this book. By the way, the link is in the bottom of the description. I also have a 1-week event coming up. It's live. It's 5 days. When I say 1 week, it's only 2 hours a day. And I talk about all these type of ideas and concepts to enable authors, coaches, entrepreneurs, salespeople to take their game to a whole nother level. And so much of it is just knowing exactly where the needle is in the haystack. So that's what I'm going to share with you here. So what happens is when we try to make this first attempt, we make a phone call, send an email, whatever it is. Then when we make the second attempt, we begin to start creating a what? What do we start creating? We start creating a story. Oh, are you aware of your stories? The stories go something like this. I don't want to come across desperate. What if I piss them off? If they were interested, they would have responded. And the list goes on and on. Show of hands, how many of you here have ever had those stories? You're lying to me if you don't, because I've been in sales 30 years and then some, and I know this whole game and I play it very, very well, but I'm also human. But the difference between myself and maybe others who don't get the success and the results that I get because of the massive amount of follow-up is because I am aware of my story. But listen to the next point. But I ignore it. Here's what I mean by that. So if I have this story like, well, what if I piss them off? Well, if I rewarded that story, what would I do? I would not follow up and be inside of this 80% between the 5th and the 12th attempt. So I ignore the story, even though I think for a moment it might be true, then I follow up again. Now, here's another reason why people fail at this. They fail at this because they don't have the foundation laid for the follow-up process. What do I mean by that? If I send an email, I'll give you a typical example. A producer sent me an unsolicited email. So she has me in a list with a whole bunch of other people. Sent me this email. So I wasn't interested, or I didn't feel I was a candidate for the show that she was looking for, because I've done a lot of TV shows. I did Dr. Phil's show, The Doctors, for about 3 years, Inside Edition, Fox and Friends. So I'm always looking to do, big TV shows to get my message out. And I responded to her with a concept or an idea. Now, here's where the foundation comes in. I just don't send that email to this person once and that's it. And for some people listening, well, I know you send it twice. Well, how do you remember to do all that? See, if you can remember in your mind of the leads that you have to follow up, that means you don't have enough leads. Yep. See, I have so many leads. My mental real estate is way too valuable for me personally to remember my leads. So what do? I put it in a CRM and let the CRM do the work for me. So what I did, I had to have the discipline. This is also where people go wrong. It takes a certain amount of discipline to lay the foundation down for the follow-up process. So here's the discipline and here's the foundation. So I respond with an email. I cut and paste her email. I put it in a CRM. I put all the notes in the CRM. Then inside of the CRM, I put a task reminder. So in 3 days, it's going to pop up again. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to email her again. Now, what's interesting, I left on the first email a PS. Here's what the PS read. I know you get a ton of emails, so in case this falls through the cracks, I'll resend it to you again. Thanks. I'm already setting her up that there are more emails coming. And then in 3 days from now, take a guess what I'm going to do. I'm going to email again. In case this fell through the cracks, send her the same email, exact same email again. Then I go into my database, my CRM, and take a guess what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to go back in, and in 3 more days, I'm going to put a task reminder and follow up again. And take a guess when the task reminder pops up, what am I going to do again? I'm going to send another email. I have done this for years. For me to get on Inside Edition, 5 years. I beat on them for 5 solid years. That's way more than the 5th through 12th attempt. The reason people are not succeeding in their businesses is because they have too many stupid little stories that we're buying into. I'm okay with you having the stories. It's called being human. But what you have to learn to do is identify when they pop up and identify when to ignore them. And that is what I'll help you master in this book. You can't fillet a nibble. It's the catch that counts. The link is below. Hope you get it. I'm out of here between now and the next time we get the chat. You know what to do. And if you don't, you do now. Don't let others rent space in your head. Have an awesome day. Follow up and go get them.